It happened suddenly. No build-up, no warning, no slow decline that people could prepare for. One moment everything seemed under control, and the next, everything changed. Because according to reports spreading rapidly online, Cardi B was rushed for medical attention after experiencing a severe asthma episode. And this time, the reaction around her wasn't calm or routine. It was urgent, immediate, the kind of urgency that only happens when people realize they can't afford to wait and see what happens next. And that's what has made this situation spread so fast across the internet. This isn't new territory for Cardi B. Fans know she has spoken openly about her asthma before. She has mentioned it in interviews, joked about it in her usual way, even warned people that it can escalate quickly when triggered. But knowing something exists and seeing it escalate in real time are very different things. Right now, people close to the situation are suggesting this episode didn't follow the usual pattern. No gradual warning signs, no slow buildup, just a sudden shift where everything reportedly went from normal to serious within minutes. And when something like that happens, there's no room for hesitation. There are already whispers that those around her had to act immediately, without fully understanding how serious it might become in those first moments. Asthma is unpredictable at the best of times, but what makes it more dangerous for someone like Cardi B is her lifestyle. Constant travel, packed schedules, long working hours, high-energy performances, public appearances. Everything runs at full speed almost all the time. And when you combine that kind of pressure with a respiratory condition, even small triggers can become serious fast. Stress alone can be enough. So can fatigue. So can environmental changes that most people wouldn't even notice. That's what makes this situation so unsettling for fans, because it doesn't feel like something that built up slowly. It feels like something that hit suddenly, without giving enough time to react in a controlled way. According to early chatter, that lack of warning is exactly what caused panic in the moment. At first, the people around her reportedly tried to handle it the way they normally would. Basic emergency steps, calming her down, helping her breathe, using what had worked before in less severe situations. But this time, something reportedly wasn't responding the same way. And that's where the tone of the situation changed. Because when a condition like this doesn't stabilize quickly, every second starts to matter. What might have been manageable becomes something that requires professional medical intervention immediately. That's when the decision was made to get her to a hospital without delay. And from that point, everything reportedly moved fast. Voices raised, movement became urgent, coordination replaced confusion. People stopped trying to wait it out and focused only on getting her help as quickly as possible. Those first few minutes, according to what's being circulated, were the most intense. Once word started spreading, fans immediately filled in the gaps. And when there are gaps, the internet doesn't stay quiet. It builds narratives, asks questions, and tries to piece together what happened. Was she overworked? Was it triggered by stress? Was there something in the environment that caused it? No official clarity has fully answered those questions yet, and that silence is exactly what has made speculation grow louder. Because in moments like this, absence of information feels like information itself. People aren't just reacting anymore. They're waiting for confirmation, waiting for reassurance, waiting to hear that she is stable and safe. What's making fans more uneasy is the suggestion that this episode felt stronger than previous ones. Not officially confirmed, but circulating enough to raise concern that this wasn't a mild flare-up. It may have escalated faster and required more urgent attention than past incidents. And that idea alone is enough to shift public attention from curiosity to concern. Because when someone has dealt with a condition before and suddenly experiences something more intense, people immediately start asking whether something has changed. Right now, there's no detailed public breakdown of what exactly happened in those first critical moments. No full medical statement. No step-by-step explanation. Just fragments, rumors, short updates, and silence from some corners. And ironically, that silence is what's amplifying everything. Because when people don't have answers, they imagine the worst-case scenario first. At this point, the only thing most people want is simple: confirmation that she is okay and stable. Everything else, the speculation, the theories, the online debates, comes second. Because regardless of fame, headlines, or online discussion, this is ultimately about health, and situations involving breathing issues always rise a level of seriousness that fans immediately understand. As of now, nothing fully verified has clarified the complete picture. What is known is limited. What is being said online is fragmented. And what people are waiting for is an official update that brings clarity and calm. Until then, the situation remains in that uncomfortable space between rumor and reality, where concern fills every gap. And that's why this moment has spread so fast. Not because of drama, but because everyone understands how quickly something like this can become serious. And right now, all attention is focused on one thing only: hoping she is okay and waiting for the next real update that explains what actually happened. It happened suddenly. No warning, no build-up, just a sharp shift from normal to chaos in seconds. One moment everything seemed under control, and the next, panic started spreading through the people around her. According to what's being reported and circulating online, Cardi B was rushed to the hospital after experiencing a severe asthma attack. And this time, the reaction from those close to her wasn't calm or routine. It was urgent, immediate, the kind of urgency that only comes when something feels different from before. For someone like Cardi B, asthma is not new. She has spoken about it openly in the past, sometimes casually, sometimes seriously, explaining how unpredictable it can be. Fans already know it's something she has lived with for years, but what's making this moment stand out is not the condition itself. It's how intense and sudden this particular episode seems to have been. Insiders and online sources are suggesting that there were no early signs this time. No gradual discomfort, no slow warning phase. It reportedly came on fast, catching everyone off guard. And in situations like that, there's no time to think or wait. You act immediately. That's exactly what people around her did. The internet, of course, didn't stay quiet for long. As soon as whispers started spreading, concern turned into full-blown panic. Posts began appearing everywhere, fans asking what happened, whether she was okay, whether this was serious or just another manageable episode. But the lack of official confirmation only made things feel heavier. Silence in situations like this never comforts people. It amplifies everything. And right now, silence is all the public has. Behind the scenes, the picture being described is intense. Reports suggest that those around her had to respond instantly, without hesitation. Asthma attacks can escalate quickly, especially when triggered by exhaustion, stress, or environmental factors. And Cardi's lifestyle, constant movement, performances, travel, pressure, only adds more strain on the body over time. Asthma doesn't care about schedules or fame. When it hits, it takes over everything in that moment. What's being said is that this wasn't a slow or controlled situation. It escalated quickly enough that the decision was made to take her straight to the hospital. No delays, no wait and see, just action. And that decision says a lot about how serious things felt in the moment. Inside that rush to get her medical help, everything reportedly moved fast. People clearing space, coordinating transport, preparing ahead so the hospital staff would be ready on arrival. In emergencies like this, time becomes the most critical factor. Every second matters more than anything else. But what has people especially worried is what happened during that short window before she reached medical care. Sources are hinting that things didn't stabilize right away. Normally, with treatment like an inhaler, oxygen support, and rest, asthma symptoms can start easing. But this time, it allegedly didn't respond as quickly as expected. That delay is what raised concern among the people with her. Because when the usual response doesn't work the way it should, the situation immediately feels more serious. Imagine the scene. People trying to stay calm while she struggles to breathe, voices overlapping, someone calling ahead to the hospital, others trying to keep her steady. It's controlled panic, the kind where everyone is moving with purpose, but the tension is still visible in every action. At that point, it's no longer about waiting. It's about getting her help as fast as possible. And that's what happened next. The decision was made, hospital immediately. From there, everything accelerated. The focus shifted from managing the situation on site to getting her into professional care as quickly as possible. Medical staff were reportedly alerted in advance, so there would be no delay on arrival. That kind of preparation only happens when there's concern about severity. Once she arrived, things moved quickly inside the hospital. That part, according to sources, was immediate and structured. No confusion, no waiting in lines, just direct medical attention. Oxygen support, monitoring, assessment, all happening rapidly. But even then, there was a short period where things were still uncertain. Not critical chaos, but not fully stable either. And that uncertainty is what tends to worry people the most, because it means the situation hasn't fully settled yet, even if help has arrived. Outside that room, her team and close circle were left waiting, not knowing every detail, just watching for updates, reading expressions, trying to understand what was happening without being told directly. That kind of waiting is often harder than the emergency itself, because silence leaves space for fear. As time passed, small updates began to surface. Nothing official at first, just fragments, hints, and then finally a word that changed the tone slightly: stabilizing. That one word shifted everything. It didn't mean the situation was completely over, but it did mean the immediate danger was no longer increasing. Her condition was beginning to respond. Control was slowly returning, and for fans watching from the outside, that was the first real moment of relief. Not celebration, not certainty, but relief. Still, questions remain, because sources are also suggesting that this episode felt stronger than previous ones she's experienced, more intense, more difficult to bring under control, and that's what's now raising concerns among people following the situation closely. Why did it hit harder this time? Was it exhaustion, stress, environmental triggers, or a combination of multiple factors building up over time? Asthma is unpredictable, but when an episode feels different from the usual pattern, it naturally leads to more questions. And right now, there are more questions than answers. Another layer adding to the uncertainty is the complete lack of an official detailed statement. No full explanation has been released yet. No confirmation about exactly what triggered it. Just fragments of information slowly coming out while the public tries to piece everything together. That gap between what is known and what is unknown is exactly what fuels online speculation. Fans trying to make sense of timelines, posts being shared rapidly, discussions growing across platforms, all trying to fill in the blanks. But the truth is still limited. What is clear, however, is that the situation was serious enough to require immediate hospital care, fast response, and close monitoring. And the fact that she is now stabilizing is the most important update so far. Still, recovery from an episode like this doesn't end in a single moment. There's observation, rest, and careful monitoring that follows, especially when the episode feels more intense than usual. And that's where things stand now, uncertain, but no longer escalating. The concern hasn't fully disappeared, but the immediate panic has started to settle. People are waiting for clearer updates, hoping for confirmation that she's fully recovering and out of danger. Until then, everything remains in that space between fear and relief, where the situation is no longer at its worst, but still not fully explained. And that's why attention hasn't moved away yet. Because moments like this don't just end quickly. They unfold slowly, even after the danger has passed. It didn't just end with relief. That's the part people are starting to realize now. Because while the word stabilizing gave everyone a moment to breathe, it didn't close the story. It only shifted it. Behind the scenes, something else was happening. Something quieter but just as important. Another detail began circulating, slow at first, almost like a whisper, but strong enough to change how people were looking at everything. This moment, this scare, might not just pass like the others. It might actually lead to change. Real change. Changes to her schedule. Changes to how much she takes on. Changes to the pace she's been moving at for years. Because when something like this happens, when it gets serious enough to send you to the hospital unexpectedly, it forces decisions you can't ignore anymore. And that's why people aren't just reacting to what happened. They're thinking about what happens next. Because moments like this don't just scare you, they wake you up. And just when fans started to feel a little relief, when that initial panic began to settle, the conversation shifted again. Not backwards into fear, but forward into questions. What does this mean now? Because the second the word stabilizing hit the internet, everything changed, but not completely. Some people exhaled. Others didn't. They couldn't. Because stabilizing doesn't mean finished. It means controlled, not resolved. Within minutes, Cardi B was trending everywhere. But this time, it wasn't about music, headlines, or controversy. It was about something real, something that made people stop scrolling and actually feel something. Concern. You could see it instantly, messages flooding timelines, fans posting things like "Praying for Cardi, take your time, health comes first." The tone shifted completely. Arguments disappeared. Jokes stopped. For a moment, the internet remembered that behind everything is a real person. And that moment of unity, it stood out. But it didn't stay simple for long. Because while fans were showing support, the industry started reacting too. Artists, influencers, public figures, some of whom rarely speak during situations like this, began posting. Not long statements, not detailed breakdowns, just short messages. Support, respect, concern. And sometimes, those short messages say more than anything else, especially when they come from people who usually stay silent. Because when someone who never speaks suddenly does, people notice. And that's when the attention deepened. Because alongside the support, something else started to grow. Not negativity, not criticism, just real questions. Is she doing too much? Is the schedule too intense? Does she need to slow down? And those questions weren't coming from critics. They were coming from fans, people who care enough to look beyond the moment and think about the bigger picture. Because this wasn't just about one asthma attack anymore. It was about what might have led to it. The pressure, the constant movement, the late nights, the expectations, all of it. And once that conversation starts, it doesn't stop easily. Media outlets picked it up next. Headlines forming quickly, shaping the narrative in real time. Stories about the hospitalization, about the asthma scare, about concerns over her workload. And once media steps in, the story becomes bigger, more structured, and sometimes more intense. But even with all that attention, one thing remained missing. Clarity. There was still no full official statement, no detailed explanation, no clear breakdown of what exactly happened or what caused it, and that silence kept people watching closely. Because in moments like this, people don't just want reassurance, they want understanding. They want to know how serious it was, what triggered it, what comes next. And until those answers come, the conversation doesn't fade. It lingers. Then another realization started settling in, quiet but powerful. This could have been worse. That thought alone changed everything. Because it shifted the focus from panic to perspective, from reaction to reflection. It made people step back and think, not just about this moment, but about everything surrounding it. And just when it felt like things were finally calming down, one more detail surfaced. This time, it came from inside the hospital. According to new whispers, Cardi B wasn't just treated and released quickly. She was kept under observation longer than expected. Now think about that. In a routine asthma episode, once the patient stabilizes, they're usually monitored briefly and then discharged. But that's not what happened here. Doctors chose to wait, to watch, to make sure. No risks, no chances taken, no rushing the process. And that decision speaks volumes, because medical professionals don't extend observation without reason. It suggests that something about this episode felt different, not out of control, but serious enough to require extra caution. And during that observation period, there were moments, quiet ones, where uncertainty still existed. Not panic, not chaos, but uncertainty. The kind where people close to her are still watching carefully, still waiting, still hoping everything continues moving in the right direction. Those moments don't make headlines, they don't go viral, but they matter the most. Because that's where reality sits, between she's okay and we're still making sure. And that's where things stand now. Not in crisis, not fully resolved, but in that space where everything feels more real than before. Because this wasn't just another moment. It was a reminder. A reminder that even at the highest level, with all the success, all the movement, all the pressure, health can shift everything in seconds. And now, the focus isn't just on what happened. It's on what changes because of it. Does she slow down? Does the schedule shift? Does the way things are handled moving forward look different? No one knows yet. But one thing is clear. This didn't just pass. It left an impact. And whatever comes next, that's what people are watching for now. It wasn't panic anymore, but it wasn't peace either. By that point, the situation had shifted into something quieter, heavier. The kind of tension that sits in the background, even when things look like they're improving. Because yes, she was stabilizing. Yes, the immediate danger had passed. But until everything was fully cleared, there was still that one question lingering in everyone's mind. Is everything really okay? And that's the part most people never see. The in-between moments, the waiting, the uncertainty, the silence that feels louder than anything else. But then just when things seemed to settle, another detail started making its way through the conversation. Unconfirmed but spreading fast. A mess. Age suggesting that Cardi B herself was shaken, not just physically, but mentally. Because when something hits that fast, that unexpectedly, it doesn't just affect your body. It makes you think. It forces reflection. Questions you might have ignored before suddenly feel unavoidable. About health, about pace, about how far you've been pushing yourself. And if that's true, then this wasn't just a medical moment. It was personal. Now everything starts pointing towards something bigger. Insiders are hinting that this could lead to real changes, not minor adjustments, but major decisions. Changes to her schedule, fewer performances, more control over how and when she works, a stronger focus on managing her health before anything else. And if that happens, then what we witnessed wasn't just an incident. It was a turning point. Still, even with things calming down, one question continues to sit at the center of it all. What triggered this? Was it exhaustion from a packed schedule, stress building up over time, something environmental, or something deeper that hasn't been fully explained yet? Because until that question is answered, the situation doesn't feel fully closed. If the cause isn't clear, then the risk still feels real. And just when it seemed like there was nothing left to uncover, one final detail started circulating. Quiet but powerful. That Cardi might speak soon. Not a quick post, not a short update, but something direct, something real, something in her own words. And if that happens, everything shifts again. Because hearing it from her changes the entire tone. It either brings complete relief, or it reveals details nobody saw coming. Either way, it brings clarity. And right now, that's what everyone is waiting for. Until then, fans are still watching, still refreshing, still hoping this was just a scare and nothing more. Because even though things have slowed down, the story hasn't fully ended. And what comes next could shape everything. So now the conversation turns to you. After everything that just happened, what do you think? Does Cardi B need to slow down, take a step back, adjust her routine, and focus on her health first? Or do you think this was just one of those unpredictable moments that couldn't have been avoided? Be real about it. Is her lifestyle pushing her too far? Or is this simply part of living with a condition like asthma? Right now, fans aren't just reacting. They're concerned. They're asking questions that come from a genuine place. They want to see her win, but they also want to see her healthy. So don't just scroll past this. Drop your thoughts, break it down. What should she do next? And if you're following this closely, stay locked in. Because if she does speak out, if new details come out, that next update could change everything all over again.